Hello YouTube, this is Insane Monster, and we are here for part 4 of What If Deku Was the Son of Zalgo. Now then, if you haven't seen the other parts of this What If, I do recommend you go to my channel and look for the playlist for it before watching this. So, take this time to pause and go look for the playlist. With that being said, I do hope that you are enjoying these videos that I'm releasing one after the other, and I hope that you all are having a good time as well as staying safe. With all that said, before we start, as always, hit it. P.S. If there's anyone out there willing to help out with a opening properly, but something safe to use, that would be appreciated since I have been looking. With all that taken care of, hit it. Now then, when we left off, Class 1A was just informed about the truth about Izuku and Sen, which shocked everyone. Though after they calmed down, they pieced some things together and they accepted it, especially with the crazy nature of some of the people that attacked them. So, yeah. Also, after this incident, it was decided that another overseer meeting was needed. Especially now that one of the overseers that couldn't make it last time is now able to make it. As Sen was being the go-between from her father as well as UA, it was determined that they would invite Class 1A and Class 1B to this little gathering. However, rules will be strict on violence. So, as well as bringing anything sharp at all. They needed to clarify, they needed to know who they'd be having help from in case they League of Villains attacked again, especially since their first attempt to attack UA, which had the two goals of kidnapping Izuku as well as killing All Might. This was something that couldn't be overlooked, so they had no choice but to just get their students in the hero course, who will be the ones most likely dealing with this in the future, to understand the situation entirely. With that, it was planned that the girls from Class 1A and B would be going to Sen's place to prepare, since Splendor will be holding it at his place due to the fact that he has the largest accommodations for gatherings, and there'll be a number of people there, as the males will be setting up their attires at Izuku's place and getting all prepared. With the details being set up rather quickly, all the students were informed, and they told their parents that they were going to a somewhat of a school gathering. They didn't really give the details due to a number of reasons. The boys from Class 1A and B met in a alley street where there wasn't any people or a lot of traffic. This is where Izuku met them. as Bakugo yelled out, "What are we doing here?" Izuku stated that, "I'm bringing you to my place, but it's in a odd uh, location, so I can't really, you know, uh, take you there by just showing directions." As they walk down the alley, they make a turn where it suddenly starts to get foggy, and there's no more buildings around them anymore. As Bakugo yells out, "Where are we?" As Mineta's freaking, latching on to Denki, who is also trembling, trying to keep it together as best as he can, Kirishima asked for an explanation. Izuku gave him the basic rundown that there isn't just the world, that it's somewhat complicated, but there are layers of different of the world. The one that they normally live on is called the Overrealm. There's also the Mid-Realm and the Underrealm. And that currently they were in a pseudo space in between the mid and upper realm where Izuku's place is, since it's easier to be more secure there due to the unstability. Only an overseer can make a place there and have the building safe and able to open a gate anywhere he wants in the over or mid realm, since they're in between the two. It's safe, secure, and hard for people to follow that they don't want following. As Monoma, who's coming along with this as part of Class B, is like, "What did we walk into?" As his eye is slightly twitching, yelling out, "Don't think this is that impressive. Class B is still better." As he gets slapped on the back of the head by one of his classmates. Since Kendo wasn't here, they would be taking turns until they met up with the others. Once they got there, they got everything set so that they could get dressed and prepare. With Bakugo yelling out, "Why do we have to do this? Honestly, why do we have to dress up like this?" As a pale individual with black hair, pale skin with rosy cheek marks on his face, remarks, "It's because you're going to the Splendor Man's mansion. When there's a gathering over there, there's a bit of a strict dress code, which, honestly, I don't quite mind." As they look, seeing him, as Denki remembers this dude. It was one of the ones who ended up helping them out. As he introduced himself as Paris. Paris the living doll. Or living puppet. As he stated that he was actually Izuku's more or less right-hand man in managing the other proxies. Each overseer has somewhat of a right-hand man, explaining that Slender Man has Masky for his, as Sen ended up with Toby, as they were confused, since they didn't know a lot about what the process of all this was. Paris just chuckled, stating, "It doesn't matter right now. You'll be informed properly once we get there, and you start to mingle. Just try your best not to be aggressive with everybody else." Bakugo scoffing, looking away, stating, "Why are you looking at me?" As for the girls, they ended up at Sen's as they were getting dressed and complimenting each other's dresses. As Ibarra was somewhat freaking out. as her belief system is been thrown for somewhat of a loop as of now, which Momo tries to calm her down, stating that it's fine. They're she's their classmate, and she's actually pretty nice. With this, Ibarra snaps out to a little bit of consciousness, but is still worried, as Anastasia walks up to her and introduces herself. Ibarra is hesitant but shakes her hand, as she explains that more or less what they do as proxies is hunt down the worst of the worst of the world. Uh, she left out the part that wasn't always the case before quirks became a thing, explaining that they go after people like terrorists, uh, small third country dictators, warlords, that kind of thing. They go after them, kind of like bounty hunters in a sense. As Ibarra calms down a little bit, thinking that at least they're taking down some bad people out in the world that normally their countries there can't really deal with. With this, he calms down a bit. As everyone gets ready, they decide that it's time to leave. As LJ begins the last dating, this is gonna be interesting. As he's just smiling his sharp, toothy grin, as Kirishima nervously smiles back, seeing him behind himself, stating, I hope so. Hope everything goes well. LJ smirking bigger, seeing Kirishima got sharp teeth like him. As Puppeteer asked him to stop with the unnaturally wide smile, with LJ just saying, oh, come on, at least let me have a little fun. Once they get to the Slender Man's mansion, everything goes like this. As they meet up, the guys group meet up with the girls group, and before they enter, they are welcomed by the Splendor Man. As Sen goes up, stating, Uncle! And hugs him. Slender Man patting her head, stating, it's good to see you're okay, my dear. As Sen asked, where's Dad? As Slender somewhat flinches at that, he rubs the back of his neck, stating, your father is having somewhat of a... As they hear a large crash, seeing a chair flung out of a top-story window. As Slender Man just states, having trouble controlling himself. We only recently told him why we were meeting, so Trender is currently trying to calm him down. Or at least keep him contained somewhat. So he might not make it to the meeting. Him or Trender. As they just hear more crashing from that opened window, Zen sighs, remark, gonna have to deal with that later. With Jiro stating, good luck. This time around, Inko didn't go, as he was staying home. As they walked in, they met the other proxies of the other overseers there. And it turns out some of the teachers from UA were already here, apparently brought by the Splendor Man's proxies. These teachers consist of All Might, in his Small Might form just being known as Toshi, to help with his cover, as well as Principal Nezu, Aizawa, and Vlad King. As Aizawa and Vlad are a little nervous since they don't really understand all this and also don't understand where they are. As things go from there, they get some snacks into them eating and start to talk. They learn that more or less the system is more accustomed to bounty hunting and such. The more dangerous the prey, the more pay they get. And it's pretty decent pay at that. Though this does mean, but they don't really tell the UA staff and students this, that before the Age of Quirks, the pay used to be kind of lacking but had more jobs. Since they had no choice but to change it for secrecy, so they keep that part to themselves. As the overseers end up having to go, with all the operators going to the meeting as the proxies and guests remain, with the teachers from UA following the operators. Once they enter, Izuku notices a new face, this being Mora. She's an operator that couldn't make it last time, as Slenderman apologized for Trender and Slender for not being here, but they will be informed about everything later. As Mora states, I already saw the chair fly out the window. You don't have to say anything more. Then just sighing at this. As everyone took their seat, Nezu remarks that he is glad that they are helping them with this issue. With Mora stating, well, yeah, Zalgo gets what he wants, it's going to be a problem. Honestly, it's even more of an issue because looking over at Izuku continues, the kid is a melancholy devil. That makes things a bit more complicated. Nezu didn't understand, as Toshi asked, why is that? As Splendor begins to explain the whole thing with demons in terms of what sin they are connected to, explaining that Izuku's sister Lazari is connected to gluttony. What this means is that the hungrier she gets, the more difficult she is to contain, and the more dangerous she gets. And once she bites somebody, they get somewhat infected by a demonic energy that can cause quite a bit of pain. Similar things amongst the basic sins, like rage, meaning the more anger or the longer they remain angry in combat, the more potent their strength and power will be. However, two lesser sins being vanity and melancholy, which young Izuku here is a devil under the melancholy category, are quite rare and have a unique attribute attributed to them since they are so rare to pop up, and is most likely why Zalgo is after him. As Aizawa asked, and that would be? Slenderman explained, the melody of hypnosis. Keep in mind, this means perfect hypnosis, meaning you can alter what people see, smell, taste, feel, and even hear. As he looked over at Zuko, stating, but you kept this to yourself and has chosen not to learn it, correct? As Zuko leans back in his seat, admitting, yeah, I haven't really tried to learn it. I figured if I ever did get captured, if I didn't know how to use it, it would give you guys enough time to get me out of there. Or at least that's what I think. As Mora states, that's not a bad idea, kid. If you never learned how to use it, even if Zalgo takes you, he won't be able to have you use it until he forces you with his control over you in the underrealm to use it as he wishes. That would buy us some time. Not a lot, but some. As Splendor continues, as for the Vanity one, there are no Vanity demons currently. They have something different. And and before you say it, it isn't something like a charm. It is something more of a personality addition, where the devil of vanity would be able to use their power to inflict a sense of worship from people towards them. Vanity is a sin of ego. This ability more or less plays to that, increasing their ego a bit more. So do keep that in mind. Luckily, neither of the abilities that we've spoken about are currently have been learned or in use at the time. Let's just be grateful that the young lad isn't anything like his father, and that he has some sense of morality on this topic. It would be quite difficult to deal with then, as Vlad states. I see. That's why they're after the kid, huh? Zen comments, yeah. And since I'm also in the class, I could be considered a target since my dad and Zalgo have a long-standing history of hate towards one another. There is that. As Aizawa stated, is that why we've been hearing crash sounds in the off distance? As they just heard a big crash. Splendor putting his hand over his eye, stating, I think that was the couch. As they remarked that from now on, Sen and Izuku will have a bit more freedom to use and call their proxies as they wish for backup. Normally, they would just have it as a last resort emergency, which is what the USJ was once they were all scattered about and surrounded by villains. Not to mention Zalgo's proxies as well. So it was acceptable. But now they're getting full freedom to use as they see fit, just in case of future references. It has to be done this way due to something called the deal. This deal can only be enacted between operators, and once an agreement is found, it is locked in place until both parties agree to a change in the terms of the deal. This process is more or less used to help limit up and coming operators so that they don't do anything stupid. And doing it verbally is completely acceptable to rewrite the terms of the agreement. Once that was taken care of, Azu states that they'll be trying to revamp their security since they believe that it was Tomura Shigaraki that destroyed the UA gate, causing the news press to come in. From what they can tell, they used it to gain access to the school for the scheduling. One way or the other, they got it. But it doesn't look like they grabbed everything, nor did they know that All Might wouldn't be there, so their information is limited to a certain point. As they did sigh in relief to that, as since they don't have the ability to get all the information they want, that at least gave them some relief. With that taken care of, they begin to walk back, ending the meeting that the other operators would have their proxies scout out around UA in secret, as well as other events, as a way to detect Zalgo's proxies from snooping around. But before they enter the main hall, we rewind a little bit. As back in the ballroom, things are going somewhat well. Those who are nervous around the proxy are a little less so. I suppose in the world that it is currently, a lot of their appearances aren't that strange, especially when you consider we've seen a dude with a cactus for a head walking down the street in a business suit. So yeah. Though the most loud thing in that ballroom was Bakugo. was Bakugo, Jeff the Killer, and Monoma yelling at each other. Jeff saying, "I'm gonna kill you in your sleep." As Bakugo yells out, "Bring it on, Smiley! And you too." Looking at Monoma saying, "Class B shall be the number one." As LJ is just looking at this with Puppeteer, they look at each other and at some of the other members of the students there and think up a plan. Puppeteer went go grab the darling dolls, being Dorothy and Darla, as they discuss something, and they grab Zero, Minetta, and the glue guy from the Class 1B. As they talked, they did make a plan. As LJ would distract them, getting their attention, angering them all, interrupting their argument. This allowed Zero to wrap him up with his tape as Minetta threw a bunch of his sticky balls with the tape sticking onto them, reinforcing it, with the glue guy also slapping on some glue onto them. Zero severing the tape and then putting on an additional layer. He finished wrapping them up as Puppeteer used his strings to hang them upside down, with the darling dolls coming close to them, what looks like glitter and bedazzling gear, with Bakugo yelling, "Get away from me! What are you doing?" As Jeff states, "Hey, what, no!" And Monoma just yells, "Stop! Stop!" As LJ is now setting a song on the speakers to play. As the operators and teachers that walk in, they come to the scene where they see Jeff, Bakugo, and Monoma hanging upside down, covered in glitter and what appears to be stick-on plastic jewels, more or less acting as disco balls, with Jeff stating, "You're gonna pay for this, LJ!" With Bakugo yelling, "I'm gonna murder you all!" And Monoma stating, "Get me down from here right now! Do you know who I am?" As the song plays, we just see LJ Denki, Mineta dancing as apparently LJ just couldn't help but play the song The Macarena. As they walk into this, they just stared. As Sen broke the silence, stating, "We should not ask anything about this or how it happened." As everyone that just walked into the room stated in unison, agreed. As Slender was finally done with everything, he walks in with Trender, who states, "I do apologize. I am much more composed now. And I am sorry for missing the meeting." As him and Trender see what's going on, they just imagine their faceless figures drawn in JoJo style, in black and white. As they just state, we don't need to know, and we don't want to know. Immediately turning back around. As Slender states, "Splendor, I'll reimburse you for the windows and furniture and such." With Splinter just holding in laughter at the scene, stating, "Okay, brother." As the night was going well, everyone had some fun. As Izuku sat down next to Jiro, asking if he's okay. He states, "Hey, Kyoka, you gonna be good?" As Jiro states, "Yeah, Izuku, it's just a lot." Izuku agrees, stating that there is not going to be any arguments there. As Jiro just looks over at the event still going on with Bakugo, stating, "Why do you have this song on repeat?" With LJ stating, "Because I can." As Izuku remarks, "Yeah, I'm going to need to put LJ on house arrest. I don't need Bakugo trying to kill him." As Hiro just laughs, stating, "We needed this." Izuku smirking, stating, "Yeah, we needed a good laugh." As everyone was leaving, Monoma and Bakugo fell asleep, passing out from the blood rushing to their heads. Puppeteer stated that he was going to bring them home, though all he really did was duct tape their mouths shut with a regular piece of tape. As Nina tapped them on his shoulder, gesturing for the tape. He didn't really mind and gave it to her. As Stadia stretched, stating, "Let's go home." As they were walking away, Sen looked back, stating, guys?" As they see Jeff freaking out with his mouth taped shut as Nina is dragging him off. Nina looks at them and just puts a finger in front of her mouth, saying, "Shh. You didn't see anything." As everyone just walks away, with Jeff yelling in protest, trying to get them to help him. As Nina chuckles, dragging Jeff away. As for Puppeteer, he just decided to drop Monoma and Bakugo off, still wrapped up as they are, just leaving them on the lawn of their homes. This being quite surprising whenever their parents come out in the morning, seeing their sons yelling with their mouths duct tape closed and them completely covered in what looks like purple balls that are no longer sticky, tape, and glue, with Mitsuki stating, "What the hell did you do last night?" With Bakugo trying to yell at his mother, "Get me out of this thing, old hag!" Mitsuki, being too used to being called that, already can tell that he ended up calling her that, even with his mouth taped shut, smacking him on the head, stating, "Show some respect to your mother!" As Monoma did not, well, his parents just looked at him, stating, "So, someone finally did it, huh? They finally taped his mouth shut." As Monoma's dad extended his hand, Monoma's mom took out $20 and gave it to him. As his mom stated, "I thought he would at least last until college before something like this happened." As his dad stated, "Yep, and I figured that I'd win the bet," stating that it would happen in high school. As apparently his parents had a bet on their son for when that he would be more or less restrained and duct taped for his mouth, and when it would happen, or at least how long it would take. As for Jeff, he didn't get found for 3 days when he burst into Slender Man's mansion, stating, why didn't you bastards come looking for me?" As Hoodie looked at him, stating, "We were told we didn't see anything." As Hoodie is now being chased by Jeff. With this, everyone meets back up at school after the week off from the USJ attack. During this, Aizawa tells the class that they will be performing the sports festival in a few days, and explaining the process, that this will not only allow you all to show off what you can do as well as your potential, this will also have heroes scout you in order for an internship. Keep in mind, an internship does not mean you have a hero license, so you'll be limited on what you're allowed to do. But this will prove to be quite useful in the future, so do keep that in mind. As for the last subject on this matter, do keep in mind that if you underperform, it will result in your demotion in the hero course. However, that being said, it is also possible for those in the general course and such to be promoted to the hero course if they perform well. As they did understand that and were talking. As school went on and the day ended, they decided to leave, only to find a bunch of students blocking the way. As they were wondering what was going on, Bakugo yelled out that they were here to scout out the competition, and that it didn't matter. I'm gonna be winning the whole festival on my own after all. Angering the students there, as a purple-haired boy showed up, stating, "Huh, are all the people in class 1A like this? Honestly, surprising that someone with your attitude ended up in the hero course." This annoying Bakugo as he just pushes himself through, with this crowd still kind of staring at them. Hero taps Sen on her shoulder, asking if she could give her a hand getting out, as Sen didn't really mind. As Hero called over Izuku, and Sen slender walked them as they held onto her shoulders to the outside, with Jiro stating, "Man, San, that's a pretty useful ability, though it feels a little weird." Sen laughs, stating, "Well, yeah, it happens at first. If you're not used to it, it's not really that strange. Though some people get full motion sickness, and that's never really a good sight." As Izuku thanks her off and states that they should really get training, as they decided to train on their own and get prepared. Throughout the remaining week before the school festival, everyone was doing their own training. Izuku trying to figure out other way of fighting besides using just Sonic and merely throwing a punch. He figured that if someone fights him with more skill than just simple power, like Drax did before, it was gonna be trouble. So he had to train more on technique than anything. So without using One for All in its transformed state, he ended up practicing with LJ, Puppeteer, and Paris. As Sadia and Scarecrow were watching, having some popcorn and enjoying the show. As LJ was actually getting into this, since he's been on house arrest to avoid Bakugo. With this, things go as I just said until the day of the sports festival. Now then, I do hope that you have enjoyed. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys later.